Hey, ToneX users. So I've been asking around on Facebook, on different forums, and all of these various different places, and even like reaching out to some of my favorite YouTubers. I've asked John Cordy. I've like commented on Jason Sadites' videos. I've commented in chats where Steve Sterlacci is in, and I just kind of wanted to figure out why both ToneX and Amplitube have this weird like input pad on the guitar input. And I will be referencing the Jason Sadites videos because he does a really good job of explaining, and I kind of wanted to just make an addendum to some things that I've discovered along with what he has said. Maybe there's something that could have been overlooked by most people in his videos. I just kind of wanted to, put things to rest. So the first issue that I had when I was using ToneX was that I noticed that the guitar tone sounded weird. And what I had discovered is that you needed to gain up your guitar in order for it to sound okay. In order for ToneX and Amplitube to say, hey, this is an instrument level signal, and the amps will react accordingly. Okay, fine. You might be wondering, well, why don't I just, gain up the input of my guitar so that it goes to clipping and then back it off a little bit? Why don't I just do that? Isn't that what everyone does? Well, in the Jason Sadites video, he says,
all guitars have a different output level. Why would we want to take a guitar that has lower output pickups, use the instrument input as a preamp to boost that up, much in the same way we would do if we were just putting a clean boost in front of every amp? We don't do that all the time unless it's the effect we want. So I hope that clears up one of the big problems with this idea of just always pushing this up to like the -6, -5 point. Well, we're leaving ourselves very little headroom. We're not maximizing signal to noise ratio or dynamic range or any of these other terms that people throw out there wanting to sound like they know what they're talking about. We're simply just giving ourselves less headroom, and now we're going to, with certain guitars, have to turn them down. Now, when we compare that to the lower output guitar, we're not really getting the accurate reaction from the modeler or the amp that guitar is putting out.
And while the Amplitube, and mind you, on ToneX, in the manual and the documentation, it actually doesn't say anything, I had to go into Amplitube 5 to find the answer, and it still wasn't a consistent answer. On Amplitube 5 and on ToneX, you need to gain up your guitar using the input slider by anywhere between like 10 to 15. Like I said, I put it to 15 just because it's easier and rounder for the testing that I've done. And even Jason Sadites has said that he wants to talk to IK Multimedia about this because he finds it weird, And I agree, I find it weird. Out of all of the guitar plugins that I use, I'm mostly a Helix user myself. On Helix Native, it's expecting to see a guitar level input. That's anywhere between like -30 and -12, that range, on the high Z input of your interface. I use the Bogren amp stuff, and I'm going to be using that for testing because it's foolproof. That's also expecting to see a guitar level signal. Same with any neural DSP plugin. They are all meant to be at a guitar level signal. The only outlier that I have found in whatever amp sim that I have used has been the IK Multimedia products. Why is this the case? I honestly have no clue. And I really wish that they would fix this, because we already have like a baseline scale of where guitar is supposed to sit in terms of level, right? And if we were to change that, if we were to boost that artificially, and what I mean by artificially is using like an interface and get it where it's all at the same level, then what's the point of like different output pickups, right? What's the point of different output guitars? Then that doesn't make any sense. So that's why that answer never satisfied me, and I wanted to dive in deeper. Feel on ToneX, it's perfect. It doesn't feel any different, right? But when everything is at 0, like the input gain is at 0, then it feels weird. And that was like a major hint for me. So let me show what I mean. So here on the left, I'm running the Bogren RevC guitar plugin, which I think sounds incredible. It actually fits in a lot of genres that aren't even metal. I've used this on pop records, and it's awesome. For those that are wondering, I'm running it through Cantabile, which is, it's a VST loader. And it's not important. It just makes it easier for me to route stuff. And if you'll see, the input is at 0, right? On my interface, which is, I am using a universal Apollo X4, I'm running through in 1. This is the lowest that it will go. This is I'm plugged into the high Z input. Everything should be perfect, right? So the way how I'll run this is that I'll go through the modeler mode. That way it's easy for me to switch between these two. Another thing too that I have done is that I've turned off the noise gate in Bogren RevC. You can hear the difference a little bit better, and also that will actually come into testing in the second part of this video. So now, let's take a look. On ToneX, I'm at 0, right? I'm at 0, and if I were to leave it here, let me just play, sounds great. Now if I go to my model, and I directly modeled this, mind you, tonally, it's there, but feel-wise, it feels dry, for lack of a better term. It feels like it's missing something. So let me compare again. Model. And then the actual ToneX model of it. I know it probably doesn't come across, but it feels more difficult to play. You could kind of tell in the pinch harmonic section that it's missing some gain. It's desperately missing some gain. So now, listen to what happens if I were to add, let's say, 12, right? So now that I've gained it up, let's compare it to Bogren. So now let me go back to 0. It feels dry. That's the only way that I can describe it. It feels like I just want to reach into whatever amp this is and turn up the gain, right? Okay, let me put it back to 12. Let me go back. And then go put this back down to 0. I'm not artificially boosting it here, because then what will happen is this. This is actually going to be an interesting comparison. So again, I'm using the Bogren RevC here. I am not going to compensate it here. Instead, I'm going to boost it by 15 decibels. So now, if we were here in ToneX, sounds great. if we were to go now here, it's a lot noisier right off the bat. There's way too much guitar signal going into the amp. I know for a fact that Bagger and RevC is expecting a guitar level signal. There's no documentation that supports this, but I just know it because every other manufacturer is expecting a guitar level signal. There's a major hint that I have with all of these guitar synth plugins. A lot of them just happen to be made for metal, and a lot of them have gates, noise gates, by default. So if I were to put on the noise gate on the Bagger and RevC, and I were to, at like the plus 15, have this on. That gate is struggling, man. However, if I were to gain this down, back to instrument level signal. This gate feels more natural. Hell, my guitar is even, it's on right now, and this feels like how it should be set. Same thing with Neural. If you look at the way how they gate stuff, if you gained up stuff, then why even have the gate there in the first place? For some reason, for ToneX, the pedal, Amplitube software, there's a volume discrepancy on the input of about 12 to 15 or somewhere thereabouts. It just is. I'm annoyed that it's there. Why even put it there? It adds an extra layer of confusion for a lot of people, me included, somebody who is very, very nerdy with my guitar plugins and wants everything to be nice and consistent. The second thing where plays in a little bit was using Bagger and RevC again. I was curious because in a Jason Sadites video, he said that
levels check, step 1 input level. This is irrelevant. This does not matter. I can't stress that enough. This has nothing to do with the modeling process. This is simply going to be for after when we're auditioning our tone model. So no, we don't need to touch this. This needs to be set wherever we normally set it. The signals that IK Multimedia uses to do the models are irrelevant. They work, they do the job. It doesn't matter that they're louder. It's okay. And quite honestly, I've never had any clipping, and I've done hundreds of tone models using them. While they do hit the amp louder, they still work and give me an accurate representation.
So that input part doesn't matter, apparently. I wanted to test that. And what I did was, I wanted, when you're in the modeler, it tells you, hey, gain up your guitar until it reaches a certain signal. I wanted to gain it up to there. It just happened to always be at around 12 to 15 dB. Imagine that. I gained up my guitar by 15 decibels, but then in whatever plugin I was trying to capture, I gained it down on the input by 15 decibels. So here's what I mean. I would go here, gain it up by 15 decibels, but then in RevC, I'd actually gain it down. There, I'd hit 15 exactly. That's why it's called volume compensated in these two presets, just so that I'm hitting whatever meters, ToneX is trying to tell me I should be at. So I did that. And then I took another capture, exactly the same like RevC setting. I did not compensate the volume, and I just took it as is. So here is what I found out. You do not compensate for, the gain. The two tones sound exactly the same. The only difference is actually the background hiss, which I thought was a really interesting thing. So maybe there is a way IK Multimedia have written their AI to play with certain, levels. And I don't know, I'm not a developer. So let's listen to the hiss on the no compensation and Bagger and RevC. That's the actual Bagger and RevC plugin, the ToneX one. Now here's with it being compensated for. Again, here's the VST. And then there's the compensated one. So my guitar volume is completely off right now. So this is just the natural hiss of the guitar amp. I hope that puts certain things to rest. Please leave things in the comments below. And please tag, Jason Sadites in this video. I would really love to talk to him about this. I feel like this is something that not many people have talked about. Please let me know if this was helpful, and I'll see you down in the comments.